the use of the motherland tongue in its pure or complete expression, but we do have enough of a vibratory field to use some adaptions, some of the principles involved. And if I undertake to utilize a little of this principle this morning for you, it is not so much for you to be to cause you to be concerned about the words that are used or the combinations of sound, as it is to emphasize the importance of tonal qualities. Now, you may notice that I am inclined to disregard some of the what I conceive to be limitations of the musical scale as it's ordinarily used. And so, if some of you imagine that it should be exactly on some note or other instead of where it is, please don't lose the blessing that's possible to you, because I don't use that scale as it is ordinarily used. I use a different principle. Well, the same basic principle, but it manifests a different principle of application. And so, my primary concern is to help you to realize in a special exercise, not that you will be attempting to do it, the factors that can actually, even at this present limited level of consciousness and vibratory perception, it can actually be conveyed. It is still more limited in the realm of ordinary speaking, it is true, and we experience something of this in true singing. I'm not suggesting I'm going to sing. It isn't, in the ordinary sense, singing. But it is expression on tone, in the sense of vibratory radiation. Its primary purpose is that radiation, so that you can have an opportunity to practice letting go to the currents that are in radiation with the help of auditory perception. Now, it's one thing for us to have the currents working just silently, without anything to particularly center your attention. Your minds, if I were to stand here and work in the current of radiation without making any sound, without doing anything, your minds would tend to get involved in your own thought processes. You might even start thinking about the baby making a little sound, and the baby's perfectly all right, and you don't need to pay attention to the baby. 1,001 things might tend to intrude upon your consciousness, or you might let your mind flit over to, well, wherever minds flit to. One of the basic things that we are here to learn is to get your scattered pieces back together. How often do you find yourself in a position where your body is in one place, your heart is in another place, and your mind is in still another place? If you had more parts, you'd be more widely scattered. The principle of getting body and mind and heart together in one place, in agreement, in alignment, is of vital importance. You cannot have your body in one place and your mind in another and your heart in another and be a complete human being. You will find that you do not have to scatter yourself in order to include all that belongs to your vibratory pattern. I'll just touch on this point briefly at the moment to help you have a clearer realization of the principle. but I cannot expect you to understand the deeper aspects of it until you have made a considerable degree of progress from the points where you are. However, if you remember the illustration I gave the other day with respect to the tent, and you in the tent, now if you are there, that means the whole soul is there. Your body, your mind, your heart, you. It doesn't mean that your heart has gone on a trip to Timbuktu, or that your mind is playing around in Shanghai, China, and that your body just happens to be geographically on Sunrise Ranch. We are undertaking to produce a situation wherein you, the whole you, are at one point at one time. Now, how much of the time of your existence do you suppose you've had that actual state? Precious little, actually, if you stop to think about it. The whole you at any one point at one time. It doesn't tend to be so. Why do people, well, undertake to drown their sorrows with the liquors that destroy spiritual sensitivities? Because they're not whole persons. Part of them got away somewhere. It's stuck over yonder. They don't know where, or perhaps they think they know where. And they undertake to drink something that will give them a few moments' peace. It's gold brick piece made out of lead. It's no good. But the point is that these patterns of insecurity and uncertainty which beset the world and which destroy so much potentiality of happiness and success derive from a state of scattered personality. The scattered soul is an ineffectual soul. Remember that. When you're dealing with others and helping them along the way, you may not mention this particular point right to start with, but you must somehow begin to inspire human beings to come to point in relationship to themselves. They're scattered souls. They're ineffectual souls. Their bodies are ill. Their minds are in turmoil. Their hearts are places of discord and conflict and uncertainty, insecurity. You cannot be of any real service to anyone until you begin to deliberately and with understanding, with wisdom, having a sense of the fitness of things, to deliberately begin to inspire the individual to become a whole person in the sense of his own factors. You cannot cause the body as such to become whole, that is, in a true sense of healing, while the individual himself is so out of alignment that his mind is in one place, or is flitting hither and yon, his heart is in another place, and his body just happens to be where it plunked down. We need to be whole in the sense of our parts before our parts can be whole in the sense of the entire being. So, bringing you into alignment, into position, is of vital importance. We have noted that the process by which we attain the state of the single eye is involved in this. If mind and heart are just a little out of alignment, you will not have a clear focus. A little out of alignment and you can't see with the eye that is more important than your physical eye. And have you any more priceless possession in the physical sense than the physical eyes? They're priceless. All right? That single eye is still more important. But while your eye is double, your whole body is full of darkness. Why? Because there's no way for the light to get in. No way for you to see. So, with mind and heart out of alignment. You need to begin to realize that you cannot see. If you do see, it will be with a blur, and things will not look right. I think you've probably heard the story by now. I gave it in the previous class about the time I went up the dark canyon and thought I saw a bear, and it turned out to be a stump. Well, if you haven't heard it, you probably will. But in any case, walking along that path, it looked like a bear. And I knew there were bears in the head of that canyon. I'd seen them. I had trouble handling horses up there, and there isn't anything a horse is more deathly afraid of than a bear. And so, down there, it looked like a bear. And I had to go on up the canyon to get the cows. It wasn't a bear. I finally experimented and got close enough to satisfy myself what it really was, and went on. But it looked like a bear, and it made me feel like it was a bear. Now my feeling, my state of insides, was exactly the same as if it had been a bear, even though it was but a stump. Usually, the things that look like bears turn out to be stumps. And yet you feel as if they were the thing you think they are, when in actual fact they are not. I wonder. So, we begin to realize that there must be alignment. There must be alignment of the eye, so that the eye of the heart and the eye of the mind are one and the same. And then it's a comparatively simple process to continue on until your physical seeing, your mental seeing, and your heart seeing are all one. And while this process is going on, there is an inner hearing, not in the sense of hearing physical sounds, but an inner perception of hearing, which begins to come into alignment so that you can more readily perceive. So we are going through a process of bringing you together into one thing, that you may be a whole soul without your parts being scattered about willy-nilly. And in this, you are learning how to let your mind come under control. As I started to point out a little while ago, if I were to stand here and undertake to give radiation without any sound, any action, it's questionable as to how many of you would actually perceive it. Or if you perceived it, how well you would receive it, how well you would let yourself come to point, how soon your minds would waver and go flitting where minds flit to. So we must use some kind of a device to establish vibratory focalization. The device I use is primarily with respect to the sound of my voice when I'm talking to you. Sometimes I use a gesture or two, something to add to the perception through the eye. But at this moment we have to depend primarily upon hearing. Once you begin to let yourself come to point and learn to relax at point, you are in a process of coming into attunement within yourself. That is, coming together. Gradually your heart is drawn into position. Gradually your mind is caused to be still and to relax into its proper position in you, so that you begin to be a being. And then you begin to be more effective. Then the healing power, the working power of God can begin to manifest through you. But if your parts are not in alignment, you are not a channel. in a real sense. If your parts are not in alignment, you are not, in a real sense, a channel. And so, we get back to this point of expression on tone. Do not try to understand with the mind. If understanding is to come, it must not be by intellectual means in this, it must be by means of the heart, feeling and relaxing into it. I don't think there's any reason for anyone to fear it, to hesitate, just to relax into it. And if it be unfamiliar in some of its factors, don't try to figure it out. What difference does it make? But we can begin to establish a vibratory current through which your own instrument of being can be more readily brought into alignment and into attunement, and you will have emphasized for you at the same time the vital importance of the vowels from the standpoint of that which you would convey. It might be that you could enjoy it more fully if you would close your eyes. If not, you may watch, but whichever is most natural to you. a land of the living. Oh, come and dwell. Oh, come and dwell in the land of the living. Oh, come and serve. Oh, come and serve the God of the living. The God of the living. There is a land of light. There is a land of light. Oh, come and dwell in the land of the light. Oh, come. Oh, come. Oh, come and really And as you begin to feel something of that which can be conveyed through radiation on tone, you can begin to recognize the healing qualities. It is not something that we can use regularly. In fact, as a class, this is the first time you have heard me touch upon this point. But I wished you to begin to understand why the vowels are so important in relationship to the reality of radiation. And how you can begin, as you learn how to express in the current of the Spirit, to begin to let the tensions relax, begin to establish a sense of being enfolded in the cloud of peace, begin to establish a realization that you are not separate and apart. That is, establish that realization in each hearer. You begin to know that there is a power which is well able to produce the adjustments in your body, in your mind and heart that may be necessary to the achievement of your divine purpose on earth. We begin to realize that only as we let ourselves come into agreement, the different parts of you into agreement in relationship to your own being, you in agreement with your higher point of focalization, so that you can inspire someone else to come into agreement with you. Only so do you begin to be an integral part of the whole, a cell in the manifest body of God, where you become a living soul, and not, as so many in the world are, dying souls. And you become a living soul. And through you, the reality of life is extended to others, so that the promise of life upon your lips is not a vain thing, but the power of God flowing through you can achieve that which is necessary in the pattern of your service, if there is the response thereto. But response to God in the things of God limits or makes possible the manifestation. Without response, the things of God cannot appear. Through response, they do appear. Shall we share the victory and truly serve our Lord and King? That is our purpose here. Class dismissed. This is June 25th, is it? June 25th. Let us remember the importance of being whole individuals, and using whole words and patterns of expression in language will help to produce a consciousness of being whole, of having a whole expression. And until you are in alignment so that all of the parts of your being, your capacities, are with one accord, in one place, you cannot expect the reality of the Spirit of God to work through you. And until you as individuals have reached the point of being whole, in the sense of being with one accord in one place, so that the Spirit of God is working through you, you cannot expect to be a member of a body which achieves the state of being with one accord in one place. A group of people that being with one accord in one place, you may find that attunement in the vibratory pattern of being which will let the Spirit of God work through you as a unit. And until we reach that unit pattern in harmony with the divine design, where you have had the experience of being with one accord in one place, you cannot expect to have the power necessary to the accomplishment of your purpose in life. But you cannot be a member of such a group until you yourself have reached a point of wholeness, in the sense of letting all of your parts come together, so that you yourself are with one accord in one place. Heart and mind and body and spirit with one accord in one place.